Like every normal day in Japan, on a morning train, one passenger starts getting fire out of his mouth. All the other citizens run away except this young guy named Shinra, who smiles instead, and standing there waiting for the fire monster to get closer. But before starting the fight, the fire force comes and asks him to stay away. They manage to destroy the monster perfectly in the presence of a nun that keeps praying. Then due to the flame, a tube light breaks, and before it hurts the nun, Shinra activates his magical powers and runs to save her with a creepy smile on his face and his feet on fire. Sooner after that, he introduces himself as the new member of the fire force and a third-generation firefighter. So they take him to the station where they get the necessary training, and he meets the captain Akitaro and Hinawa, and he gets to know them all. The captain asks him after that about the weird smile he makes on his face, so Shinra explains that whenever he feels stressed or excited, his face starts looking like that. Then Hinawa asks him about the purpose behind joining the fire force, so he explained that he joined in order to be a hero. Soon after, he meets the two ladies, Iris the nun and Maki, a second-generation firefighter. The nun thanks him again for saving her that day in the train station. After that, the captain calls him for a quick meeting where they discuss the reason behind the unexpected fires. The leader says they must discover why ordinary people start combusting in normal conditions. And he reminds them that it's their duty to keep the public safe from any danger related to fire. At night, when Shinra tries to get some sleep, an alert rings loud. Maki wakes him up and informs him that another fire monster appeared, so they wear their uniforms and run to the fire engine. When the team arrives to the location, other firefighters explain how bad the situation is and that there is a monster inside the building. Shinra sees the flame and recalls how his mother died in the same way, and no one believes that she combusted like all the other human beings. Even his grandmother refused to take him and told people about his weird smile, which is a proof that he lighted the fire in the house and killed his mother and brother. The captain wakes him and orders him to stay focused, and the fight begins. The monster was so fast and they barely can touch him. Shinra activates his powers while thinking about all the bad moments he once lived, and he runs toward the monster and he knocks him down. In the next day, Akataro announces to Shinra the upcoming events where different fire soldiers will represent their team. He will meet the new recruit today and they will represent their station. As the boy goes back to his room, he meets Arthur and they recognize each other. It is obvious that there is an unsolved matter between them and they will talk about it now. On the roof, Mac is showing the nun some fire tricks when the two guys interrupt, planning to fight each other. Arthur introduces himself to the group, and while they get to know each other, Akataro shows up and orders Maki to fight them both in order to make them know the average level of the other competitors that will be present in the event. Iris seems to be worried because she knows Maki is only second-generation soldiers, and she can only control fire unlike the two other guys who can make it and control it at the same time. However, as the fight starts, Maki shows no mercy and attacks Shinra. She throws him off the edge and then starts fighting Arthur on his turn. Shinra flies back to continue the fight, but the girl controls his fire and the fire which Arthur created out of his sword, and she makes one bigger flame, but Akataro turns it off. The captain after that takes the two players and shows them the different tools and weapons they might need in a combat. Suddenly the fire alert rings, so the team rushes to the location, and on their way the captain hands Shinra a weapon and asks all the soldiers to hide their tools under their coat in order to respect the families of the victims. When they arrive to the location, they found another girl's father who turned into a monster. Just 2 years after her mom did. He was sitting calmly on the table waiting for them. Arthur steps toward him and stabs his chest with a sword. The team doesn't expect anything else, but the house seems to collapse. All the soldiers run out except the captain, who decides to save some memories for the girl outside, and he reveals the existence of a third side. Then a strange man appears and seems to have bad intentions. Captain hands the girl a family picture and asks her to be patient, and then they go back to the station, leaving her in tears. Later that night, while the fire soldiers are taking some rest, the man that appeared in the location, whose name's the Joker, talks to Victor, and they see the statistics of different countries and how the fire affected them all badly except Tokyo. He also expresses his love for the substance which was made by Victor. They also made some research about the Company 8, and they collected information about all the fire soldiers. They knew the captain gained a lot of medals, but the government took them back because he went against the orders and he chose to put the humans' life first at the Rookie Fire Games. And the next day, the event got started and all different participants from different companies came to show off their skills. Then Shinra sees a soldier from the Company 1 and he remembers the fire which happened 12 years ago. The man was clearly the one who saved him, so he goes on the side to talk to him. But the man keeps walking and asks him to stay focused on the games instead of bothering the others. Right after that, the planners of the Rookies game announced this year's objective, and they inform the participant of the finish line's location. They all start running, but our boy has the advantage as he's the only one who can fly. When he gets into the house, he meets the Joker, who has caused the hurt to two fire soldiers. Shinra decides to attack him, but the man uses that mysterious substance and he says that he knows what happened in his house 12 years ago. Also, he reveals that his little brother survived from the fire and he's alive. The boy doesn't care too much about what the Joker said and he starts attacking him. The man gets impressed of his powers, and then Arthur and Tamaki Taki comes in and start helping Shinra. The Joker says his last word and confirms the existence of many hidden secrets, and if Shinra wants to know them, he must leave the Fire Force and join him to be a devil. He spreads that explosive powder and he disappears. The boy manages saving the 2 crewmen and his 2 teammates, and they fly together before the explosion. When they appeared out, the rest of the soldiers save them and some firefighters start turning off the fire in the building. Soon after that, the captain reveals that the 7 other companies might know the secret behind the humans' combustion, and he will do his best to figure it out. So Shinra offers his help and promises to help the humanity by saving them from fire. And the next day, everything works perfectly. The citizens are all waiting to know the court's ruling about the firefighter who killed 4 of his teammates. Somehow the court decided to free him after doing the necessary medical test, and it appears that he was mentally unstable. Right after hearing the verdict, the criminal turns into a monster and promises to kill them all. The company 8 heard the alert, but Arthur and Shinra were outside in the city, so Hinoa informs them and they fly to the court, where the monster threats the judge and expresses his intentions of killing him. Suddenly the 2 fire soldiers attack him and the teams join the battle after a couple of minutes. The monster reveals his wishes of killing people the same way the fire monsters got killed, as a sort of revenge, so he flies to the city. Shinra follows him as he's the only one who can fly, and when he arrives, the monster begs to get a chance, at least to die, while the nun prays for him. The boy accepted to wait for the rest of the team to come, but he keeps an eye on the monster, and as it was expected, he started attacking. But Shinra cut off his arm, and when he's about to kill him, the leader of the 5th company, the Princess Hibana, arrives and decides to take the matter in charge. Shinra tries to stop her, but she controls him and makes him fall down, and decides to take the monster even when the 8th company is supposed to take it. When the team arrives, the captain asks the princess for more details about why she wants to take the monster alive, and she answers by the necessity of discovering the secret behind the combustion, and that she will share the results of her test, so they just let her go, even when they still think she has bad intentions. The nun recalls the old days when she was a kid and studied with the Princess Hibana. She started crying, and Shinra noticed that by coincidence. On the other side, the princess tortures the monster and forces him to say all what he knows about how and why to get people transformed to monsters. Later this day, Shinra thinks about why the nun Eris was crying, and he realizes that she hides a very important secret, so he asks Arthur if he knows anything. But before he says a word, Mika opens the door and tells the 2 boys that Eris disappeared. She wants to talk to the princess, but Hibana treats her in a very bad way and disrespected her in front of all the soldiers of the 5th company. Eris tries to convince her to stop being selfish because they didn't learn to be like that when they used to study together. The princess ignores what she says and she cuts her clothes off. She also confesses that she will use her as a bite and attract the other members of the 8th company in order to kill them all. Suddenly Shinra arrives and angrily promises to save his friend and to destroy the 5th company. The rest of the company arrives in seconds and they start killing the guards in the gates with no mercy. Then they decide to split. Arthur, after running inside, finds himself in front of an old short man who promises to kill him, while Hinoa and Mika face another soldier who hits them with bubble explosive guns. So Hinoa controls the fire shots and hits him back. That's why 3 other female soldiers come to fight as well. Back to Arthur, who realizes the 5th company used the monster and developed his skills to stand on their side while they were supposed to kill him, but he manages doing that using his sword. Hinoa and Mika also win the fight against the 3 other soldiers, and Shinra arrives to the castle where Eris is, and he prepares himself to attack furiously. Hibana was waiting for the boy to come, and she asks Eris to watch how she's going to kill her teammate. Sooner after, the boy enters the room where the princess is with the hostage, but as he makes 2 steps, she controls him using his superpowers and makes him fall down just like she did the day when she took the monster. But this time, the boy resists and stands on his feet. Hibana gets shocked, but when he attacks her, she hits him and shows another level of powers. Eris tried to remind her how they spent their childhood working and protecting the others, but she doesn't listen and keeps attacking Shinra. Then the boy somehow resists her huge attack and doesn't move back and hits her badly. Hibana passes out and remembers the old days and all what happened to her in the church. After a couple of minutes, she wakes up and uses her superpowers to create a beautiful artwork for Eris. The leaders of the 2 companies organized a dinner for their soldiers. At the end, the princess promised the captain Akitaru to offer her help and to give him all the research she did to figure out the secret behind the combustion. Then they start investigating the 1st company by sending Arthur and Shinra to spy on them, pretending to be new soldiers. Mika and 2 other guys from the 5th company are sent also. As they get into the company, they meet the Captain Burns, who explains the rules to them. Suddenly, Shinra invites him for a fight, and if he wins, he will ask for something bigger. The captain accepts. As the fight begins, Arthur starts attacking first with his sword, but the captain can easily stop him. Then Shinra attacks angrily, but the captain asks him to know why he's doing so much efforts. The boy answers that he wants to be a hero. Burns stopped him easily and gives them an advice to work harder as they want to discover the secret of the human combustion is way too long than what they think. On the other side in the station, the princess and the Captain Akitaro discuss the result of the chemical research, and they realize the presence of an insect DNA in all burned bodies. In the next day, Shinra and Arthur are having their breakfast with all the other soldiers of the first company when suddenly the alert rings loud. The team rushes to the location and they find 5 fire monsters. Karim asks the soldiers of the 8th Company to stand aside while the others control the monsters. And while they stand in the street, Shinra sees a hand of a guy who puts an insect on the back of a normal citizen, which turns him to a fire monster. The two friends rush to see who that person was, but they find 3 of the first company's soldiers, so they just go back as they didn't recognize any of them. The two boys decide to take the risk and to sneak into Karim Flame's room. As they start looking for any evidence, they find the same insect they saw before. Then Karim enters the room and explains that he left it there on purpose. He says that he's also looking for the one who does these criminal things. On the other side, Tamaki collects a group of kids and brings them to Rika, the second suspect after Karim. He says that he will show them a trick that will protect him from fire and asks Tamaki to leave him alone in order to focus on the trick. The girl hides right in the corner while Rika injects the insect in the mother's body first. She doesn't resist, so he kills her and takes another boy. He does the same thing, but Tamaki interrupts and begs him to stop torturing them. The small kid at first starts becoming a fire monster, but suddenly nothing happens to him. And before taking another victim, Rika beats Tamaki and asks her to shut up. Also, he plans to kill her and make it look like a suicide. The girl finds herself too weak and can't even protect herself, so she just screams, and luckily, Shinra, who was on the sky trying to find the suspects, heard her screaming and saw the fire coming out of the building, so he rushes to save her. He beats Rika with all his powers. The fight starts between Rika and Shinra, and in the middle of it, the Batman notices how the fire insect gets attached to the boy and realizes he's the person they have been looking for to fulfill their bad experiences. Tamaki begs Shinra to win, so he takes advantage of the vast building and he fights freely and defeats Rika. But then Rika gets angry and reveals the bad plan of combusting every single human on Earth and making the Earth look like the sun shining and burning. But first, he lights his hands in order to burn the building and the other kids, but Karim comes in and freezes his hands. Hyun comes in after that and learns what happened. Then 2 snipers stand on the building and start shooting Shinra and the other soldiers. They cut Hyun's hand and they point on Karim next. When Shinra discovers their location, they decide to step back. Everything goes back to its normal situation and Karim reveals that he will help the 8th Company to find the missionary, which Rika talked about while fighting, and Shinra thanks him for this. In the next day, there is very important meeting between the leaders of the 8 companies and the Emperor of Tokyo after knowing about the White Caps' company. In the middle of the meeting, the Emperor asks Shinra if he has the Idol of Flame. The boy answers by yes and reveals that Rika said the same thing when the insect got attracted to him. The Idol of Flame is pure fire and it's the first one. It was used to create this universe they live in. They end up by instance of the Emperor to protect Shinra from the missionary, because he knew that he will come to take him someday as he has the purest flame on Earth. As the meeting gets to end, Shinra decides to go to see the power station of the city, and there he meets the Joker. He tells him that as soon as he gets closer to the missionary, he will find his little brother Sho. After coming to the station, Shinra tells his friend about what the Joker said, so they promise him to find his brother. The Captain Akitaro recalls the first fire they faced with the team and explains to his soldiers that many weird things happened that day. The person who combusted was wearing white and he had no family or friends, and the only thing he left was a red cross. The company where he used to work came right after the incident and took back that cross. After doing a simple research about the company, they find its location in Asakusa, within the authority of the 7th Division, and it's still working. They decide to go there and investigate about the cross company, but the leader Waka asks them to leave his division. The group decides to stay and to help the citizens, the thing which made Waka think more about helping them in their research. And while he was on his way to inform that he will help them, he hears the Captain Akitaro and Hinawa talking about creating more fire monsters in the city, so he starts attacking them furiously. The other soldiers try to stop him, but he doesn't listen and he tries to use his most powerful hit ever. But Konro stops him and asks him to think twice before attacking the 8th Company, and there must be a misunderstanding. It turns out later that the White Caps' group is creating for every person another one who looks exactly like him. That is why Waka saw 2 guys who look exactly like the Captain Akitaro and Hinawa, and this led to a very big misunderstanding. Soon after that, the White Caps start attacking the 8th Company and learning Shinra precisely. But he realized that and follows them in purpose. Suddenly, one of them attacks him, and luckily Arthur interferes and they start fighting as a team. On the other side, Konro convinces Waka to stay strong and to act like a leader to save his village. Waka flies and gives his order to all citizens to start beating each other in order to find the people in the skies. Back to Shinra and Arthur, where their adversary from the White Caps ate a fire insect and turned himself into a fire monster, which looked exactly like the one who destroyed Shinra's house 12 years ago. Waka sees the light and decides to join them for the fight, and he realizes how much power he needs to defeat the monster, but also that will destroy the whole village, so he decides to take the fight up to the sky in order to fight freely. On his way up, a white cop archer points on him, and it will cause Waka's death if it will touch him. But Conro called Shinra. The boy flies with all his powers and changes the arc's path. The rest of the work is left for Waka to destroy the monster with his unbelievable strength. In the next morning, the soldiers of the 8th Division reveal that the Cross Company took advantage of the mess which happened in the last night and destroyed all the evidences. After repairing the houses of the village, Waka and Conro offers the soldier of the 8th Division a couple of white drinks to thank them for the help they gave. In the next day, a new soldier comes to the station saying that the Emperor ordered all the divisions to have a scientist. That guy is Victor, the Joker's assistant. The captain sends Shinra, Arthur, and Iris to convince a creative inventor named Vulcan, but he refuses to go with them. Suddenly, Giovanni, the 3rd Division's leader, comes and asks the inventor to join his team, but he refuses and goes back to his lab where the 3 soldiers keep touching his stuff. So he gets them all out and explains his true dream of saving the whole world, not just the humankind. And their company works only for humans, that is why he will never accept working for them. As they are all outside talking with his 2 servants, Lisa and Yu, Shinra starts feeling something weird in his legs. Later on, it turns out that Giovanni works for the Whitecaps as well, and he orders 2 servants to kill Vulcan. Iris and Arthur could feel the danger and ask Vulcan to watch out while Shinra is in the woods trying to check out the area. The Whitecap soldiers surrounded Vulcan's lab, and Giovanni made a trap for Shinra and caught him. Then he calls more Whitecap soldiers to come and take him. Back to the lab where the inventor made a sword for Arthur and sent him out to fight. He figures out from the first hit that there are only 2 Whitecap soldiers and all the others are Mirage. However, as the time goes on, he realizes how weak he is to fight them. And in the lab, Lisa reveals that she works for the Whitecaps as well, and she came to live with Vulcan in order to find an important key. Soon after that, Giovanni arrives and starts beating him in order to make him tell where that key is, but he says nothing. So he beats the little boy Yu, but he starts destroying the different machines in the lab. While he destroys one device, he finds the key. In the woods, the Princess Hibana wakes Shinra up and tells him that she knows what happened. She finds him cuffed, but after feeling the danger, he releases himself and flies to the lab. He attacks the soldiers first, then he jumps to Giovanni. But Lisa keeps resisting and uses her fire powers, which has some magnetic characteristic. That is why Vulcan asks Iris to touch all the buttons on the wall to create a magnetic field and disables her powers. Outside, Hibana joins the fight and helps Arthur while Shinra fights Giovanni. But then he feels the same pain in his leg, which turns out to be a sort of connection with his little brother Shaw, who works for the Whitecaps. Shinra feels so happy because he finally saw his brother, but unfortunately it is one-sided feeling because Shaw starts fighting straightly without hesitation. Arthur tries to stop him, but he gets stabbed badly, just like his friend. Then Shaw asks the other soldier to take his brother to their leader, but Victor shows up driving a car and takes them all. When Shaw decides to stop them, the Joker appears and fights him till he made sure everyone escaped. But after all, the Whitecaps took the key of Amaterasu. After taking Yu to the hospital, Shinra asks Vulcan to stay in the station until they fix the other matters. He agrees, and on the dinner table they ask him again whether he likes to stay and work with them or not, and they ask him to think about it more. In the next day, the leaders of the 8th Division, the 5th one, and the 7th gather to discuss the information they have about the combustion. They all know about the fire insects, and that the Whitecaps and soldier are looking for a specific power. While Waka teaches Shinra and Arthur more techniques, and Vulcan shows his tools and inventions to the crew, and later, Shinra learns how to use his fingers to control his fires. The captain and Victor studies the cases they have, and they come up with the result that the Whitecap soldiers are in the underworld in the old metro station of Tokyo, so they decide to take the team in the next morning, and they go check it out. At night, the boy sees Iris in his dreams, and she seems to be in a problem. When he wakes up, he hesitates to tell her. As the group get inside the tunnel, the fog spread everywhere, and the Whitecap soldiers split them. A couple of minutes later, they found themselves alone facing the White Army. The beginning with Kami, who defeats a whole group on her own, then Tamaki and Iris, who kill one of the soldiers as well. On the other side, Hinawa faces an archer named Arrow and gets injured in the middle of the fight. She tells him that feelings are not important and they only want Shinra. So she asks him to give the boy and they will let them live peacefully. But he reacts furiously, so she hits him even more. When she thought he was done, the man uses his superpowers and controls her arrows and kills her. Then 2 other soldiers appear and seem to be ready to kill him, so he shuts the roof and Arthur falls down. Arthur applies what he learned from Waka, and he feels his adversary before the attack, while Hinawa takes the rest, because he used all his powers and he defeats the 2 Whitecap soldiers even after using the Mirage trick. The girls gathered again in the tunnel, while Falcon and the captain Akitaru meets Lisa and Giovanni. The girl reveals her true name Filler, and Giovanni confesses that he taught her everything she knows about using fire and he made her get closer to Vulcan. The girl seems to be cursed and attacks Vulcan. The captain tries to stop her, but she's stronger than him. But later, it turns out that Akitaro was planting bombs in her tentacles and he exploded them. The girl falls in Vulcan's arm, but Giovanni threatens her so she gets back to him and promises to stay loyal. Right after that, Giovanni suffocates her with his burning wires and asks Vulcan to kill the captain if he really cares for Lisa, and indeed, he shoots him. Giovanni releases the girl thinking the captain died, but they surprise him with the fact that the coat is made to be bulletproof and they start attacking him. On the other side, Shinra feels the same weird pain, but this time he sees something strange. A land and a monster trying to touch his face and the devil's footprints. He reveals to Victor that his brother Sho is getting closer to him, and right after that, they meet each other. Sho doesn't show any intention to talk peacefully and reveals that he never had a mother. The only thing he knows is to fight. He shows unbelievable powers as he can stop time and do whatever he wants. Then he reveals the existence of 2 different universes. That is why no one can defeat him. Shinra insists to know, so his brother takes him to another dimension and explains the origins of the Adola Flames, and the missionary stands right behind him. Then they go back to the real world and Victor explains how Sho stopped time by controlling the universe's heat and causes its expansion. Facing Sho seems to be impossible with normal power like the one Shinra has, but he keeps attacking, and every time the face of Sho when he was a little kid keeps stopping him. For a moment, Shinra seems to understand how to control the universe and surprises his brother by doing it for real. The boy improved his skills and linked his power with the other universe and with the missionary through Sho, and now the fight is fair enough. But suddenly Shinra starts getting weak, and Victor explains that every time when he uses this new technique of stopping the time, his body gets weaker and he dies slowly. Also, if this will happen several times, it may lead to the creation of a black hole, which means the disappearance of the whole city. The boy insists to do it one last time for his brother in order to bring back all the memories to his head. Shinra jumps and takes him to a different moment of his past. His first day in the academy, the day when he visited the power station, the day of the explosion, trying to make him live the same feeling and accept the fact. Sho realized everything. Then they go back to the real world where they find out that Shinra got stabbed by his brother unintentionally. Homiya comes after that to take the flame from Shinra before he dies and explain their need to the flame, as they have been collecting all the flames since a long time to recreate the universe. Sho asks to know the truth and what happened 12 years ago, but she curses him. Then Arthur and the rest of the team interfere, so she decides to step back, taking Sho with her while the tunnels is about to collapse. The team takes Shinra to the hospital where he takes the necessary treatments, and after 3 days he wakes up craving food and gets an unexpected visit from Burns, who finally decides to talk about what happened 12 years ago. He reveals that he knows about Sho and the White Caps. The boy reacts angrily and the leader asks him to prove his powers in a fight. The fight got started and Burns wanted the boy to show his true powers, and indeed, the boy showed what he learned, so the leader decided to tell him everything. He told him that the missionary knew about the fire and it was the sign of a birth of a new flame, and Sho was the reason behind the fire. Also, his mom turned to be a monster, but they didn't kill her because she disappeared with the little boy, and they didn't tell Shinra all these information because they didn't want him to get himself involved in all the mess. The boy tells his captain everything he learned about the Adola Flame and his mother and promises to do his best to find them. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you tomorrow with the new one. Until then, take care and stay tuned.